Conversation, the exchange of sentiments, opinions, or ideas. For us, this is a pretty big exchange. There's a lot of us, and really that's the key word when it comes to conversation. And in fact, this is an exchange between us. So welcome to our exchange. Hi, I'm Allison Samowitz.
And hi, I'm Jillian Samowitz.
As you can see, we're twins. The great thing about being a twin is there's always someone to interact with you, to share those ideas, and to keep that exchange going. And as we've grown older, our conversations have evolved into something greater. One of the greatest and biggest conversations we've ever had was about 2 years ago after the Gulf oil spill. And, we created an organization called Proceed to Green. So Proceed to Green essentially is a nonprofit organization that matches communities to the right community service projects that benefit in an ecological and fiscal way. So upon watching the news footage of the Gulf oil spill, we sat down and talked to each other and said, well, what can we do to make a difference in the environmental story? And right away we wanted to start with a big bang and just get people really interested and excited about the environment. And so we created something called an event. An event is an ecological day where we bring local vendors who help support ecologically friendly activism and awareness and education.
So we comprised a list of vendors, and from there went on to solicit vendors to come to our event during Earth Day in our town of 360 homes to explain what they were doing in terms of their products or their business that would benefit in an ecological way. So we comprised this list, and we sat down and we decided that because we were 14 and couldn't drive, that we were going to each take a parent and go off on our own. So I went with my mom to Tesla Motors, and the reason why we chose to do Tesla first was we thought, why don't we do something unconventional, start with the hardest thing first. And in the end, it ended up paying off, and I'll explain more about that later. But my experience went somewhat like this. So I got in my car with my mom, and I turned to her, and I said, so what exactly do I say? And she said, well, just be yourself and explain what you're doing and what the event is. And I said, oh yeah, because that's going to work. Okay. So I took a pen, and I tried to write a script on my hand and see how that went, but I ended up kind of sweating it off and twirling my fingers, as I kind of am doing right now. So I pulled up to Tesla, and I opened the door, and I walked up to the receptionist, and I explained who I was and what we were doing, and she immediately jumped up and ran to the manager's office. And I turned to my mom and I said, I screwed this up. This is terrible. This event isn't going to happen. And I started to panic. Then she came back out with the manager, and I said, okay, we're getting kicked out. Let's go now. And actually, the manager really took me aback. He shook my hand and said that he would personally like to come to our event and bring a Tesla car for people to drive in and supply their own tent, and the receptionist wanted to come too. Even Allison had an experience similar to that.
Yeah, well, it's not spectacular, but well, I was sick that day, so I had to do something else on my own, which, of course, is difficult to do without a twin, because it's just like a built-in buddy right there. So I go to a company, and instead of talking to one person, I had to talk to two at the same time. So you can imagine about 14-year-old me, about this tall, with two really, really big car dealership guys talking to me, and I'm talking to them, and I had to get them really interested. So I'm babbling, and I'm just rambling as much as the information as I can remember as possible, and suddenly I accidentally name dropped that Tesla was very interested in coming to our event. And well, then they started fighting over me. So I went from being terrified that they wouldn't come to suddenly two people actually wanting to come. That was a very interesting experience for me.
So the unconventional advice that we received from that experience was that if you start with the hardest thing possible, even if you don't succeed, things will still come out of it. But if you do succeed, you'll know that you can actually do anything. From there, we were able to go to tons of other vendors and be more confident and explain who we were with more assurance.
And so, after that, we went to a lot of other vendors, sent tons of emails, and we had a very, very successful event, Ecological Day, which was really great for us. But the hardest part is not actually talking to the adults. The hardest part is actually getting people to be very interested in what you're talking about, giving them motivation. And we find that with the different age groups in lower school, middle school, and high school, it's all very different. Lower school, they really like doing something hands-on. We actually got to do we actually had a drive at our school for soap for a company called Clean World. We found that the lower school, they were very enthusiastic and motivated with that because they really wanted to do something hands-on, and they just wanted to give the soaps right away. We found with the middle school, they really like doing the participation aspect and being able to talk to their friends about where they get the soaps from and things like that. High school was the most difficult, as we know, because we're in high school. They really wanted to know the why something is done, why they should be motivated to do something, and why it should be important. So really, you just have to find exactly what each individual portion needs, and from there you'll be able to figure out what to do. But pretty much any additions?
Well, besides that, we also learned that being a youth is actually more powerful than you think. You know, we were afraid that it would be an obstacle that we'd have to overcome, but I think it was more of an advantage to us in the long run that we were younger students passionate about something. Adults are really willing to help you if you're interested in something. If there's something that you're passionate about and you want to do something, they will help you because there's nothing more important to them than helping you succeed. And so although we did suffer some roadblocks, you know, some vendors didn't come, overall we had an amazing turnout just because we were interested in doing something and we wanted to take action.
And from there, here we are today, very proud about where we started from, and we keep moving forward. So remember, when you have a conversation, that leads to action, and that action leads to change. So we leave you with this final question: what will your next conversation be?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.